Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I'm joined by founder of Vieve Protein Water, Rafael Rozenson. I think I got that right.
Yes, well done.
Oh, praise the Lord. How are you today, Rafael? Welcome to the show. Thanks for being on here.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm incredibly hot.
Yeah,
It's
I
about
mean,
it's for the past week actually. I've been trying to kind of work. I went back into my co-working space for the first time in
oh, how was that?
5 months. It was air conditioned, which was the most amazing thing.
Yeah,
But it was a bit weird being back in the office. There weren't that many people. But I mean, it's just been roasting. I'm looking at my thermostat now. It's about 30 degrees. So
inside.
yes, yeah. So if I'm sweating profusely during the interview, I apologize in advance.
Don't worry. If anyone's listened to this in 6 months' time, this is the week that England melted. I think is the official term we're going with here.
Yes, there was no escape.
No,
No
although it's
escape.
really weird because at the moment you've also got like huge flooding in the north, so it's a real diverse bit of weather at the moment.
Yeah, we're waiting for the rain to come. It was supposed to rain yesterday,
I
and it
know.
never
I was
came.
promised a storm today, and it hasn't
It's
happened.
supposed to rain today, but again, nothing.
No, they've let us down. The weather gods has let us down, but that's okay.
Yes, yes,
So enough about the typically British conversation of weather. We've done
yeah,
well there.
yeah.
Tell me more about the protein water because this is a story that, well, watching the growth and sort of doing my research, seems like this is going to be an epic story about how you started and where you're going.
Yeah, well, Epic is
No
a big.
pressure.
I'm definitely going to start this one now. Yeah, so I mean, I guess I'll start by saying a little bit of background on kind of myself, why I came up with the product, our journey so far. So, as a bit of background, I've worked in kind of FMCG, consumer goods, for about 12 years. Worked for a lot of really, really big companies, people like P&G, Disney, Bacardi, JSK, Danone, Mars. Did like sales, marketing, category strategy, the whole works. And I've been taking sports supplements for a really long time. So I've been taking them for about 20 years or so. And never really liked kind of the taste or the experience of them. I always hated kind of like mixing powders and milky shakes. I'm also lactose intolerant. So always kind of had a real problem taking these products, but just kind of took them anyways because I worked out and I saw the benefit when I took them. And basically, a couple of years ago, I was working at Evian, so I was working for Danone Waters. And one day, and also at the time, I should say, I was taking a ridiculous amount of protein. So like cans of tuna, protein shakes 3 times a day, like
Far too much, I bet.
chicken breast. Like I was literally on the verge of throwing up. And one day, I just remember I was looking at a bottle of water, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if you could actually get protein? It was sort of refreshing and it was hydrating and it didn't taste gross. And yeah, that's kind of how I came up with the idea for the product. So it was really just something that I would use and I would like, and thankfully a lot of other people have kind of gravitated towards it. So we launched about 2.5 years ago. Launched kind of online via our website, then into Amazon, where we've done exceptionally well. So we've been kind of one of the best-selling protein drinks on there for the past 2.5 years. Also, much bigger brands, and then we've slowly gone into retail. So we were in about like 100 or so gyms in the UK, but obviously that's kind of really up in the air at the moment. We also have a really big export business. So we export to about 16 markets across Europe, Middle East, and Asia.
Amazing.
And again, with COVID, some of those markets have done better than others. Some have fared worse. And yeah, roughly for the past 2 years, we've been growing about 60, 70% year on year. This year, we are roughly projecting to do the same, even with COVID.
Amazing. Wow.
And so yeah, and the business has gotten really good traction with consumers. So if you go across our website and Amazon, we have about 500 5-star reviews. So people really like the product. We've been in pretty much every major publication, Guardian, Women's Health, FT, Forbes, you name it.
All the good ones.
Yeah, all the good ones, some of the bad ones too. So yeah, and obviously with COVID, our business has changed quite a lot, and it's changing quite a lot, and the next going to change quite a lot in the next couple of months as well. But that was a bit of a long-winded story, but that's a bit of background on myself.
But it's so funny as you were just saying that one of the Facebook viewers on the live stream has just said, "I'm drinking a strawberry and rhubarb one right now."
Oh, lovely. Okay, great.
So how amazing is that? For you, I want to take it back to when you looked at that bottle of water and you thought, why can't I merge these two things? Why can't I merge the protein and the, like you said, the refreshingness and the, I guess also a bit of easiness as well, right? How
Yeah.
did the process start with that? How did it get to the refined product that you've got today? And I'm guessing there's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, it was. I sort of jumped over quite a big step, but it was about a two-year development cycle.
Wow.
So, there were a lot of steps associated with that. One was obviously just finding a recipe developer, fine-tuning the recipe. So there was a lot of iterations back and forth. The emphasis with our product is really taste. We want to really focus on making one of the best tasting protein products in the market. And actually, the associate editor of Men's Health said it was the best tasting protein product he's ever tried, which is
Wow.
really great.
That's a pretty
feedback.
good.
But it took a lot of iterations to kind of get there. So a lot of back and forth. And then the other challenge we had as a startup brand was really finding a manufacturer. So most of the manufacturers that I spoke to initially, the volumes were just so high. You know, we're talking like 100,000 units to start out with, and obviously that requires a lot of capital, a lot of upfront investment. So it's really challenging. So it was quite a lot of different steps. There was a step of actually coming up with the actual recipe. There was a step of finding a manufacturer. There's a step of sourcing the ingredients. There's a financing step as well. So how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to have launch?
Did you go down the bootstrap or did you get investment?
I did bootstrap it. So it was bootstrapped, and then I got a Virgin startup loan as well.
Great.
Which I would recommend. I've always recommended to anybody who's starting out a business. It's a government-backed scheme through the Startup Loans Company, and it's 5,000 repayable over 5 years at a very reasonable interest rate. So it's really good to kind of kick you off. And they also force you to kind of do a business plan, a cash flow forecast, and you have like a mentor that you work with as well. So yeah, you kind of have a bit of thinking that goes behind it.
Yeah, no, I've heard so many great stories about the Virgin Startup Loan, and it's so great that there's that access out there for entrepreneurs now. Whereas you know, there's more. I'll be interested to see what comes out after all of this, and you know, what's that position going to be like in the next sort of 12 to 18 months. But I think there's some interesting opportunities there. For you, when the product was refined, so after you had all, you know, that 2-year journey, and you had, I guess, your first, how can I put it, your first commercially sellable product that you knew was ready to go to market. How did that feel for you as a founder, as someone who literally started this idea thinking, I'm a guy that would use this product. I have a lot of protein in my life, but I want to have it consumed in a better way.
Yeah, it was. I remember the moment when we were in the factory for the first time, and you kind of see it rolling off the line for the first time. It was actually quite scary because everything up to that point was actually quite conceptualized. And to actually see all that product and to see like pallets and pallets of product, and you're like, oh, I have to actually sell this stuff now. We've actually
now it's the hard bit.
It was kind of this mixture of kind of enthusiasm, excitement, and fear.
Yeah, I bet.
I would say that at the same time. Yeah, it was quite a surreal feeling actually.
And for you, as a founder, you know, your past experience was, I guess the right word is corporate, you know, working for other people, and now starting this journey on your own, starting, you know, bootstrapping it on your own, not having that sort of backing in terms of not just money, but also mentorship until you did the Virgin Startup Loan. But for you, what kept you motivated? What kept you making sure that you got to that stage where you saw that first bottle come out the line and you saw it all packed up and you then thought, oh, it's happened, it's real?
I think part of it was, well, if I'm going to be honest, I had a bit of a midlife crisis.
So you didn't buy a Porsche. Instead, you thought,
I definitely couldn't afford to buy a Porsche. I still can't afford to buy a Porsche, unfortunately. And I probably never will, but that's okay. but I kind of worked for a lot of these really, really big companies, and I got to a stage in my career where I realized I just wasn't really happy working in these big kind of structured matrixed environments where I didn't have a lot of controls into decision making, and I kind of had to spend a lot of my time just kind of to sell my ideas upstream, just encountering a lot of objections, blah blah blah. And I kind of just took a look at what would really make me happy, and I realized, the only way I'm going to be happy is if I'm an entrepreneur. I've got all this passion, all these ideas, and all this creativity, and I realized that's really the only way I can kind of reach a level of being professionally happy in what I do. And so that was really the motivation. It's like, you need to make this work because this is ultimately what makes you happy in a way, I guess.
And that's what so much boils down to. It's just what makes me happy, and realizing that as well. It's so great that you realize that your previous path wasn't leading to that end result. And it's so great to see that it is now. For you, the last 2.5 years, how have you managed the growth? How have you managed to, get into 300 odd outlets, become an Amazon bestseller, work with Ocado? What was your game plan right at the beginning for that? Did you know this was going to be where you would be 2.5 years on?
No. So I would say in terms of where we are, where we started, where we're going is really quite different, and it's a journey, and it changes almost on a weekly basis, basically. Because when we launched the product, it was like the ambition of a lot of food and drink entrepreneurs is, get it into as many stores as possible, really max out the distribution. And unfortunately, it wasn't that easy. So I'd come from a background where I worked for a lot of big companies, and, when we went in front of a retailer and we had a new product, it would just get listed.
Sure.
And so I appreciate it now. I wasn't really aware of just how difficult it was getting something completely unknown onto a shelf in a Tesco or in Sainsbury's or what have you. So it was a very, very slow build at first. We didn't, I would say the first year or so, we were massively off where we wanted to be. But what we did is just, what I did is just refocus the strategy. So we realized, we started getting a lot of traction on Amazon. Like, people started buying the product, they liked it, they reviewed it, they came back. About 70% of our customers repeat purchase. So after a while, it's just a gradual build of kind of like acquiring customers, having them come back and repurchase, like the product, endorse the product as well. So most of we still don't spend massive amounts of marketing like some of our competitors. Our budgets are probably 1/100th of, people like Grenade or UFit or Upbeat or any of these brands. But we just get a lot of referrals and a lot of people recommending the product. We've also discovered different consumer segments of people who are using our product who we didn't anticipate. So, for example, about 25% of the people who buy our product are people who need protein for a medical reason. So people who are going through post-op surgeries, cancer patients. So that's never really been into the plan. So that's a whole new group of consumers that we're kind of dealing with. So I would say it's been a very, very slow build. It's been a lot of kind of trial and error. We went into some retailers where it didn't work. We went into some markets where it didn't work, where we were with the wrong partners. It's been a lot of kind of trial and error to get to the point where we are now. And thankfully now we have a very strong, steady base of shoppers who are buying our product online. We have great visibility online. We might never go into a Tesco or Sainsbury's or whatever, and that's okay. I mean, that's not really the focus for the business anymore. We've got a really strong direct business, and if we're never in a supermarket or what have you, that's actually okay. But
was that quite hard for you to overcome? Because obviously your background was so used to, like you said, pitching into big supermarkets, having almost like that natural life cycle of a product, and then with your own product and your own business, early days, naturally you probably thought that's where you wanted to go. Was that easy for you to go, actually I don't want to do that anymore, or so, like you just said, it's okay not to do that?
So one of the things that you kind of learn is there's a lot of especially within kind of the startup food and drink community, there's a lot of brands that go into supermarkets that fail, and it becomes a very expensive exercise, and can ultimately, and I can speak from experience of other brands, can kill other brands.
Yeah, I bet.
You invest in a lot in getting a listing in Tesco and Sainsbury's, because it's not just about the supermarket listing. You have to structure your whole business around them. So your price points, your pack sizes, everything. So you really build a business model around that particular channel. And I've seen that really kill some other businesses. So at first it was disappointing because we didn't get the volume growth that we could have. We're not growing 400% or whatever year on year because we got the big supermarket listing. But on the other hand, I mean, this year we're going to turn our first profit, which is pretty good for
Amazing. Congratulations.
Yes, yeah, it's not a massive one, but it's
Still a milestone.
Yeah. So most food and drink businesses aren't profitable until year 5 or year 6.
Oh wow.
So we managed to do that just after a couple of years, and now we're investing a lot of that money just back into innovation, into launching new products. And so yeah, I guess it was a bit challenging at first, but I think just like as an entrepreneur, you have to realize that it's a journey.
Yeah.
And you have to be flexible in terms of the end goal and how you get there, the time and the path that you take. It's not set in stone.
No, 100%. How do you handle things when they don't go to plan, when they go wrong? Because I'm sure there must have been situations in the last two and a bit years where, again, because you've got a physical product, it's effectively money on the line, isn't it? So when things don't go to plan, how do you, as a founder, deal with that? Speak to the rest of the team and things like this.
Yeah. So I meditate first of all. So I meditate every day. I would say you can't overreact to situations. So that's the most important thing. Is mistakes happen. They happen all the time. The important thing is just to kind of learn from them. Make sure that you don't have any one mistake, that you hedge things enough that something doesn't drown the business. So do as much risk aversion as possible. But I think the important thing is just not to overact and to run and learn from the situation, really.
Yeah, fantastic. For you, what's next then? Because you mentioned, reinvesting into innovation. What is next for the Vieve Protein brand? And what sort of sites have you got your eyes set on?
Yeah, so our focus as a brand is, when we launch, we're going to be all about the waters. And actually, that's going to really change. We've got a very exciting pipeline of innovation where we're going to be going into new segments. And really, the idea is to focus on what the core of the brand is in terms of taste, flavor, high protein content, low sugar, and really expand that out into innovation that's quite new and unique in the category, I think. So that's going to be really the focus. We're very much still focused on DTC. We've actually shifted away from retail completely. So during the past 3 or 4 months, our sales have actually doubled just across online and Amazon. Wow. More than doubled. So actually at the moment, we don't really need retailers. So we don't have to worry about limitations of shelf. We don't have to worry about sales teams having to go out and sell things. We're just really focused on kind of understanding our consumer, delighting our consumer, and then bring them innovation that they will hopefully purchase. So the shift of the business is really going to focus. We're going to move away from just being about one product to really being about a solution for our consumers, and really standing about a couple of core things. So yeah, that's really going to be the focus.
Brilliant. How does it feel going back to that innovation phase? Obviously, 2 years of that, 2 years created the first product, and now you're going back at that with so much more knowledge, so much more trial and error, and so I'm guessing a lot more focus in terms of what your customers want. Does that make the process easier for you?
Yes, it does. A lot of it is still, I mean, obviously we're not doing hordes and hordes of market research to really understand our consumers. A lot of it is still, I'm just doing from my gut. I kind of have, and some of it is from like listening to what our consumers are saying as well, obviously. But yeah, I mean, the easiest thing now is like when I email people, they actually want to talk to us. Whereas before, trying to get people's attention was just impossible. And obviously now I'm a lot more aware in terms of kind of like the manufacturing, the process. So it's much easier than it was before.
Do you get those emails now where people are thinking, oh, actually, I want part of you, I want part of the brand, and for you, how's that conversation with your head? Because you're at a stage now where I'm guessing for you to go out and get a large sum of investment could be quite easy, as opposed to it was 2.5 years ago. For you, is that an option, or do you want to just carry on doing what you're doing, sort of self-investing because it's working?
Yeah, I would say getting investment is still really hard. So investors typically, when they look at food and drink brands like ours, they don't really still understand the model. That might change with COVID, but they look at like, okay, you're in Tesco, Sainsbury's, Morrison's. Okay, yeah, here's £1 million.
Wow. So
it's
quite a traditional way to look at things.
Yeah, it does. So they're kind of really still focused on that. We're not looking to raise money at the moment. We got like a bounce back loan and stuff from the government, which is really helping us out. I would prefer to go down the loan route versus the equity route, because interest rates are quite low at the moment. So we're not really looking for investment, but I would say an investment in the food and drink space, compared to like tech, for example, some of the other people that you've had on your podcast and stuff, it's still very difficult.
Yeah, I think some investors in the tech world effectively wake up, throw a dart to a board and think, okay, I'm going to invest in that tech business. It can be a little bit like that.
If you're an angel investor and you've got the funds, you want the crazy Facebook returns, right?
Yeah, that's what everyone's chasing.
That's kind of what you want. You don't want like slow and steady growth, and you want to discover the next Facebook, basically.
It's always interesting just looking at the market and seeing how different investors work, and obviously the industries for you. One of my final questions for you, Rafael, is, you mentioned meditation. What other things do you do on your daily routine to make sure that you're turning up for the business, that you're being the best boss, founder, creator, innovator that you can be, to make sure the business goes to where you want it to go?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. So one is I do have a bit of a daily routine. So I do meditate. I exercise every day. I have what I found really important in the past is really understanding what you're working towards. So having a clear set of goals every quarter. I used to use, I kind of stopped using it, but there's something called the Best Self Journal. And basically what that does is it forces you to look at by quarter, basically, what are the 3 key things that you want to achieve, and then what are the tasks that you're doing on a weekly, daily basis to kind of achieve those goals. So, if you want to grow by 20% next year, what are the 3 things that you need to do? Then structure your day so that you're doing things to kind of achieve that. So I find I did that for a while, and that gave me a really good focus. Obviously with COVID, the whole situation kind of makes it a bit difficult to plan. But it's really about having a sense of focus, understanding where you want to go, and understanding the things that you're doing in your day to really enable yourself to kind of get there.
No, I completely agree. And it's obviously working because, your brand is growing, you're getting into the right places, and you cannot argue with the customer feedback, which is one of the best things.
Yes. It's good for now. Every day is a new
for now. Yeah. Listen, Rafael, thank you so much for coming on. I really respect your time. And one last question is, how can people find out more about the brand? How can people try it, purchase it? What's the best route for that?
The best part of the interview, yes. So you can purchase us on drink-vieve.co.uk. We ship in the UK. We ship all over Europe as well. You can purchase us on Amazon. Just search Vieve Protein Water. We're on Ocado as well. Hopefully we'll be in your local gym soon, but that's up to be up in there. But just check us out online, Instagram @drinkvieve.
Perfect. I will make sure I'll be adding it to my next Ocado order as well.
Awesome. Brilliant.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Okay, cool.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching. This has been Founders 365.